What's up to all my product founders and creatives out there? This is your host, Lisa Montero, and you're listening to the Visual Commerce Podcast, where founders, creatives, and brand leaders bring you insights on how to tell better visual stories of your product in 3, 2, 1. So we're here with Oskar Puchalski, creative director of Scent Beauty, an end-to-end fragrance company that designs and brands and manufactures scents for startups all the way to world-renowned brands. Oskar, thank you for taking the time to be on here with us today. And it's probably just hitting evening your time if I have my time zones correct.
Thank you for having me. Yes, you're right. It's actually almost 6 p.m. here in London, but I'm happy to talk with you.
I'll try not to keep you on too long so you can enjoy your Friday.
Thank you.
So Oskar, you've been at Scent Beauty for about 3 years. Can you tell us a little bit about what the company does and what your role as creative director encompasses?
Well, the Scent Beauty, we are direct-to-consumer company which creates fragrances for existing brands and also for new, also creates a new brands and a new products for celebrities. And my main role is to create all the visual aspect of that in terms of the packaging, the websites, and everything that, it's eye-catching.
And what's interesting is, Oskar, you went from architect with a specialization in conserving historic buildings to creative director for fragrances. Can you tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day as an architect looked like, and then how that kind of transitioned into fragrance design?
Well, as an architect, like you said, I specialize in conservation. So mainly I've been restoring medieval and 19th century churches and cathedrals, which is completely different than anything related to beauty industry and fragrances. Day to day was very typical to every designer, really, starting your days with checking an emails and then just seeing what's the problem with designing problem with the building or the part of the building and how to fix this. But as a conservation architect, mainly I've been repairing things, so there was less design, and most of my time I've been spending on site with contractors, builders, to looking at the problem and in situ trying to solve it. But deep inside, I felt that I need something more creative. And then I start doing privately some graphic design. And, from project after project to project, I start doing more packaging design. And most of my clients been related with the fragrance industry. And then just, it's evolved from doing some small graphic design to actually being this a full time.
That is interesting. Now, if you had the kind of graphic design background from your architect study, did you also have the branding background? Or did you have to kind of develop that as you're working with these fragrance companies?
Well, I think actually that being an architect, I always had this kind of branding because, especially, specializing in conservation, because if you look at any buildings, it's almost like a brand. If you look at historic buildings, you've got different eras like, Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque. Those are more almost like brands. And each of them is slightly different. We can talk about Gothic buildings, but there's, Gothic from this region or that region. So in a way, I've been already trained to have this branding eye, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so now we're in the visual first economy right now, right? Where like how a brand portrays themselves through their visual content is one of the most important factors in connecting with a consumer and generating the engagement and conversation and ultimately conversion. But what would you say is the importance of this visual storytelling specifically in the fragrance industry?
Well, first of all, it needs to be eye-catching because, if the product has 1 second or half second to catch someone's attention, it needs to be eye-pleasing, especially now when everything's moved towards e-commerce and, browsing through Instagram or any site, you do not really put much attention, on the ad. So it needs to have catch your eye. It's either through different colors or beautiful images, but there's also this movement that more people prefer to see a lifestyle experience, like not old-fashioned ads, directed with special effects and celebrities. Most people actually prefer to see a regular person, using the product and describing what they think. I mean, all of us probably once or twice, even more, look at YouTube and watch someone unboxing something. We wouldn't do that normally at home, but we would like to, see what we are getting. So,
Absolutely.
so I would say it's more. It needs to be definitely eye catching and more like a regular life experience.
Absolutely. And what would you say in totality, what would be a well-rounded and cohesive visual narrative for a fragrance company? What elements of content would you include to really be able to capture the full story?
Well, that's a difficult question because each brand is different and each brand has a different message. If the brand is moving more towards natural, kind of sustainable, then there will be more, of course, related to that. But if it's more about high fashion, going out with your friends, being glamorous, this will be a different story. But the main thing is to try and catch what the brand is about, and then try to visually show it and express it.
Absolutely. And I know for you guys, you do a couple of different things where you have your standard product detail pages where you're showing all elements of the product, but then you have such an array of different types of lifestyle photos, both with model and just with the product, and you make sure to properly communicate that brand scene so people really understand the lifestyle.
But when it comes to fragrances, it's also difficult part because this is touching a scent that you cannot really experience through internet because smell, you cannot smell through internet. And a lot of people hesitate to actually purchase something without knowing how it's gonna smell because it's just thousands of different mixes. That's why on Scent Beauty we always try to show ingredients and more or less the mood what the fragrance will bring you. So as one of our standard images, it's all the ingredients without the bottle because then people can relate how it's gonna smell to things they know, like like grapefruit, like flowers, like strawberry, like vetiver, or different things they know how they smell. So when they end up on our website, they know what to expect from the fragrance.
Absolutely. And I imagine that must be a challenge for you guys in the sense of like not all the scents that you have are it smells like an orange where people can just get that the vibe of the smell is an orange. You have so many different ingredients and components that somehow people have to kind of concoct and figure out what this is going to be like. Is it going to be an orange because it's more fresh? Is it going to be more along the flowers and woody type scents? And so how, if you have 6 different ingredients in a photo, how do you communicate the element of which ingredient they should really be honing in on to capture the smell?
In that case, we also try under our description to create. I think we created things called scent profile, when we of course describe different notes, but we also have different categories where the fragrance falls into. So if it's more floral, it can have some citrus elements in it, but mainly it will smell floral. So it's just part of also education to explain to the consumer what to expect. If it would be floral or spicy, or you can wear it casually, or is it for night out. So sometimes things like that, it's difficult, almost impossible to describe through a photo. So we have to find a different tools. That's why we created this system of describing the family through the scent profile.
Absolutely. So it's a mix then, which is great in terms of visual narrative is kind of the first thing that people capture, but then it should be able to be backed by words. Once they've got it and they resonate with the photo, then they're like, oh, here, and now here's more to help me get the complete and full picture. Now,
Exactly.
do you think that having this experience online, right, having the profile and having the visual of ingredients that speaks exactly to what a consumer already knows, do you think this is going to eliminate the need for them to experience it in person in retail? Do you think that fragrance can just be on e-commerce eventually?
Well, that's a very difficult question because, like I said before, it's referring to one of the scents you cannot really fully experience online. And I think in the future, it will be a mix because a lot of people prefer to first, try it in the old-fashioned brick-and-mortar retail, but like everything is moving towards e-commerce. So it's a very difficult question, and I don't think I can answer it right now because I think it's going to be a mix.
Absolutely. And I almost think similar to how the fashion industry has gotten so innovative in how people can really try before they buy and how easily returns are now online, that fragrance could eventually get there. But
Well, it's it's a bit difficult with that because it's not like a piece of clothes. You can try it and send it back. You actually have to use this.
Mhm.
And then no one wants to buy a used product later, or they always want to buy it cheaper. And even with fragrance, if you just spray it twice on yourself and you say, oh, I don't like it, I want to return it, then it's a difficult subject.
And then it's kind of you, so it does put a lot of cost on you guys if that's the
Oh,
case.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like with everything. It's almost like thinking that ordering a juice and trying this and deciding I don't like it, I want to return this.
Yeah.
Some
Absolutely.
companies will accept this, but it's used.
Well, hopefully we'll get to that point one day where we can like smell through our computer screens.
Well, what are we actually this starting to do, and we are launching this on Monday. Is a discovery sizes, so it will be a smaller size, which is bigger than the one you get the free samples on the if you go to old fashioned retail. It's double the size, so it's bigger and it's affordable. So it's one of the ways we introduce the fragrance to a consumer. So just introducing a smaller size, more affordable, so they can actually try this. And if they decide they like it, then towards the full size purchase, they will get a discount for the amount they paid for the discovery size.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's one of the ways, because we need to think about us, because everything costs. Yes.
Yeah.
So selling a small size, if you don't like it, that's not much of your loss, but you tried it. But if you like it, you can get the full size and you can get a discount for exact amount what you paid for the smaller size.
I think that's a solid compromise and good for your user experience as well, for sure. So now you work with a ton of different brands, right? And where do you even start in determining what the visual narrative should look like? How do you identify the authenticity when the pitch might be essentially the same, whether it's sustainability or all-inclusive brands or a particular ingredient that a ton of different companies are using? How do you even start?
Well, first of all, you do not start with the visual of the brand. You start with understanding the brand and what this brand is about and what kind of message they want to say. Because, like you said, there are tons of different sustainable brands, trying to, change the words and make everything better. But what I usually start with, I start to educate myself about the brand, what is their vision, read a few articles about them, and then understanding them, then I start, preparing what would fit into their world. And most of the existing brands, they do have the guidelines, in terms of colors and fonts and basic stuff. But when it comes to the form, and it's like I said, you just need to understand what they are about. Then it's easier to create something which really relates with that brand.
Absolutely. And then do you think then for fragrance to be able to capture that essence, do you think the visual narrative after that is the difference between sink or swim for a scent brand?
It's a difficult question. I don't think I can answer this question.
And I think it's interesting because it depends when you have the already foreknowledge of what this brand's about. When you have word of mouth, when you have all of that, people are accustomed to the scent, they'll buy. So it might not always be about the visual narrative, but what do you do when there's a startup perfume brand coming into the industry? Is it now a matter of getting that narrative out and getting the hype around it for people to be able to really engage with it? Is that what helps it to really launch?
Well, what I would say, it's create something some innovation, and then just work around this. Because if you look right now at a lot of successful brands, they created something that is different, or they do something what is different, which is more appealing to people. Because why would I buy existing product from unknown store when I can buy it from uh, someone who already established themselves in the market? So what I would say, if the new emerging fragrance company, they should create something different or do something different than others, and then that will make them unique, and a lot of people will be interested with that.
Absolutely. Do you have any examples of maybe your favorite or specific fragrance brands that you're like, this is your favorite way it's captured, or this is your favorite brand for a particular reason?
Well,
For you, there's so many brands. So it's hard.
I like one of the brands we created. Actually, John DiNapoli designed the bottles. He's a great designer. It's the Fluid project.
Yes.
And my favorite is the Balance, which is very fresh and very unisex. And I gave it to one of my friends as a gift, and he absolutely loves it. So,
Very
so
cool.
I would say that's one of my new favorites, new favorite brands, and new favorite fragrances.
And is this idea of unisex scents kind of a new emerging trend?
Absolutely, yes. Right now, it's this movement of not putting gender under scent at all, which I absolutely agree with, because what's important at the end of the day is if you as an individual like the smell or not. In the past we had this, those fragrances are masculine and those are feminine, and you have to stick with them. And people are saying that all flora or are for women, which I disagree. If a guy likes floral, Why not? You have to be comfortable with them, not me.
That captures the essence too of the Fluid project.
Exactly, yes. So there's no gender. It just what is you as an individual like.
Do you think that the benchmark now for quality, both for high quality, both in terms of like just the technical photo aspect and the creative aspect, is different for fragrance than other industries? Like fashion, you kind of expect something edgy or bold or creative, whereas it might be different for home goods and wellness. Is there a benchmark that is different for fragrance than other industries?
I think it's exactly the same like for every other industry, which is the brand. It's all about telling the story of the brand. If we want, the fragrance to be this editorial, edgy, then it's telling the story that it needs to be editorial and edgy, and this will reflect on all the creative, like photography, uh, videos, or anything. So I don't think there's a specific benchmark, that the fragrance should be this and that. It's all about the brand. Because to be fair, we can create assets, visual assets, in any style.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what type of content pieces or platforms do you think generate the most engagement for fragrance brands?
It's like for everything, to be honest, Instagram and all social media.
Yeah.
And as it comes to types, it's like I said before, it's the user's experience. So what actually people think about it, what do even if you go through Instagram, there's a lot of ads that Rihanna created. I think she created this skincare line, and she's actually using this and showing and sharing her experience with that product. And I read an article that it has a massive conversion rate because it's not like old fashioned like in 90s and early 2000s that we have to have this
Yeah.
directed massive advertisement which doesn't make much sense in the real life. Right now there's this movement that people wants to see how things really are and what other people thinks about it. So,
Absolutely.
and there's also the big conversion with regular people just recording with their phone, having this, shaky hand, what they actually think about what they do. So those are the best assets at the moment, which creates the best conversion.
And I like what you said when we were talking the other day about how kind of in the early 2000s, late 90s, it was all like about the celebrity marketing, and now it's a little more almost hipster.
Absolutely. Right now, to be fair, not many people care about celebrities anymore. It's there's a lot of new celebrities on Instagram, or all the influencers, and more people are interested what we are putting on our body and in our body, with the diet, and on our body with any kind of skincare products or fragrances. So there's this big movement towards sustainable, eco-friendly products, which won't cause harm or any damage to our skin, and it just enhance our mood. And it also reflects with the packaging design because everything needs to be sustainable. So we try to create things which are fully recyclable and reusable. I mean, I saw the other week amazing design with one person design a shower gel, which is the packaging was actually a solid soap, and inside there was this cavity with the liquid soap. So when you use the liquid soap, you actually use the package as a soap. So there's no landfill and no waste. So there's definitely movement towards this. So it's creating something unique and more eco-friendly.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see where this I know the movement of sustainability has been there for a while, but the level of it now hitting every industry is incredible. So I'm excited to see where it's going to go, especially for fragrance. So I'm going to wrap up, but before we close, and I know you've already poured out a ton of advice here, but do you have any specific words of advice for people trying to elevate themselves in the fragrance industry?
Just be true to your brand and try understanding your brand, and be creative. Do something different than other people are doing, because anyone can buy a bottle and put a label on it. Just do something which is beautiful, different, and then go it from there. And your first idea is always your best idea. So my old mentor from architecture was saying, when you start designing, think about 100 different ideas, but when you decide to do one, just continue doing it, and you will have time of doubt, saying, no, I think I should change this because this doesn't work. Don't stop. Just keep working on that, and in the end, it will turn out to be something amazing.
Solid words of advice. Oskar, thank you so much for being here today. I'm a big personal fan of your creative direction, and it's a pleasure for me to be able to see your creative direction play out regularly. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's ahead for Scent Beauty, and I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.